Hi guys, welcome back. This is episode number 45 of Matt Chat, covering one of the best computer games, computer role-playing games, just flat-out games ever made. Michael Toy and Glenn Wichman's Rogue. Now, Rogue is a game that you either get or you don't. There's not a lot of in-between with a game like this. I compare it, or the way I think of it, is a computer role-playing game boiled down to its essential gameplay. This is, there's no fancy audio visuals. In fact, the only graphics that are here really is an on-screen map and some symbols, usually ASCII characters, to tell you to help you identify what things are on the screen. This is a game that's definitely not if you like Rogue, it's not because you think the graphics are awesome. Okay, but that said, there is so much to enjoy about these games. Now, I didn't come to Rogue directly, like I'm sure many of you probably didn't either. In fact, I didn't encounter this game like this until I played Larn on the Commodore Amiga. We got this as part of a public domain disc magazine packs we used to get. And I remember playing Larn and thinking, wow, this game is really crude. It's very public domainy, if you sort of know what I'm getting at. But there was something about it that kept me loading it up again and again and playing through it again and again. And I might as well say now, these are very casual role-playing games. A lot of role-playing games you have to dedicate hours and hours to playing. Rogue and the games like it called roguelikes, these are for the most part very casual games. You can sit down and play these for 10 minutes or longer, 30 minutes, an hour, however long you want. There's really nothing to it. I usually don't worry about saving the game. I just when I'm bored with it, I just quit it, and that's very rare for computer role-playing games. And I was also wanted to mention, I was reading an essay by the authors of the Facade game, and they were talking about how some games, or most modern games, they're focused entirely too much on media files. Graphics, pre-rendered graphics, scenery, objects, things that are drawn. And they're not really taking advantage of the computer as a medium. What computers really do well, of course, is math. Algorithms, procedures, computer procedures to generate things like maps and responses to things. And I was thinking about this, and they're absolutely right. And if you look at a game like Rogue, you really see what can happen when you focus on computers as a medium, as generating things rather than just loading up images that some artist has produced or some musician has recorded. And the more I think about this, the more fascinated I am by Rogue and games like it. Now, of course, we couldn't talk about Rogue without talking about the community. Now, Rogue, almost since its beginning, has had many different developers working on working on it, as well as mini ports and forks, different development paths. There's so many, there's no way I could cover them all. I will say a couple of my favorites, of course. Probably my overall favorite is NetHack, which is more or less an advanced version of a game called Hack. It's called NetHack because they were finally able to take advantage of the internet to help with the development of it. Fantastic stuff. There's also games that have taken on different themes, Lord of the Rings, all sorts of, I think there's games based on the Diablo storyline. There's just a lot, I mean a lot, of diversity in these roguelikes. And if you're interested in computer programming, especially if you want to program games, I think you could do much worse than to sign on one of these rogue development teams, making a roguelike, or create your own. Because if you are working on a roguelike, that means you are focused on what is really important about games, and that is the gameplay. Alright guys, a lot of commentary there. So let's spend the rest of this video. I want to take a look at some of the different rogue games and roguelikes out there, try to give you an idea of what these games are all about. Let's start then with this one. I showed it briefly before. This is the 1983 version published by Epics, or as they were known at the time, Automated Simulations. And it's kind of an interesting story. As you can see, they have used the IBM's character set, so you have a little smiley face instead of an @ sign, and you have actual walls, or things that look like walls. And, to me, this is a very attractive looking version. I like it quite a lot. But unfortunately, it was not a good seller by any means. And there's various explanations for that. Some people think it was piracy. Some people think it was just the fact that you had so many freely available public domain versions out there. Why pay for this? But it's probably just that, by this time, these graphics, the home computer community has always been different than the UNIX mainframe community. A lot more emphasis on graphics. Even with the IBM PC, this would be considered, very primitive, even by those standards. So, what can we say? There just wasn't enough people who were able to get past the simplicity of the graphics, and the people who had that kind of savvy probably already had one of the free versions, so it just wasn't meant to be. There also, of course, have been several later versions, including some graphical updates. This is the Atari ST version, published in 1986, and they've really tried to modernize the interface here. I like the graphics. They're, for lack of a better word, quite cute. I don't know how impressive this would have been to Atari ST owners at the time, but I applaud the effort. Here, of course, is the classic Mac version of this game, and they've really done a lot with the interface here. I mean, as you can see, they've got all these windows here, the maps, a mouse-driven interface. It's a little bit cumbersome. I kind of would just have rather used the arrow keys, but of course the old, I guess the classic Mac. Anybody developing for that platform wanted to focus on the mouse movement and such, since that was one of the big selling points of the system. Very revolutionary technology we take for granted today. But anyway, this is a very nice version. I would definitely seek it out if you have a Mac sitting around and you want to play Rogue. I also wanted to show you this. This is something I found as I was doing some research for this game. Rogue 2, Return to the Dungeon, apparently published by Epics. I'm not sure what the added bells and whistles are, or how this differs from the first game. But anyway, it's definitely interesting. I'd like to, if you know anything about this version, please let me know in the comments. I'd like to learn more. And that's all for this Matt Chat. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I have a great interview subject lining up for next week. I can't wait to talk to this guy. I know you're going to want to stay tuned for it. I'm not going to tell you who he is, though. I'll just leave that in suspense. I'll leave you with a thought, something I've been thinking about playing Rogue again, and thinking about what makes it fun. And that is, what would happen if game developers, before they could put a game into production, if they had to make this game fun to play, without fancy graphics, without fancy audio, in fact, without audio visuals at all. limiting themselves to something like Rogue's developers had. And my guess is, and I firmly believe this, that if you could make it fun to play without the graphics and without the audio, then you've got a really great game on your hands. If, on the other hand, the game sucks, you need to go back to the drawing board, start thinking about basic gameplay mechanics and how to make your game more fun. I think that way too many modern games, it's all about the graphics. It's all about some license. It's basically about things that don't really matter, ultimately just don't matter to a great game. All right, guys. See you next week.